And you're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show again today, because we're on Monday through Friday. And you know what's so much fun is that we have amazing talent all around this building. I mean, we have theatrical talent and all that. But today, and today only, because I don't know if he'll ever come back after today, but we have Dr. Wallace Wilkerson, but everybody loves to call him Dr. Wally. And he is an amazing story all by himself. We could just do a whole show on just his background and all that. But you need to know that this man was responsible for doing a great turnaround in this area, and in Texas alone is bringing them from the Democrats to Republican, making that transformation and bringing us all onto the red side of the state. Now, people are saying our state is leaning. It's pink right now, and it may be leaning to be Hillary's state. But I just don't believe that's going to happen. And Dr. Wally Wilkerson, thank you so much for being here, and good morning.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me.
Well, you are you're an amazing guy.
Well,
and
thank you.
You were a doctor. You were an obstetrician, gynecologist, and up until what year did you stop?
Well, I was a family doctor, but I delivered a lot of babies, and that's all the kind of doctors there were in Montgomery County when I moved here in 1958. And I was the 9th doctor in the whole county.
Good grief. And but you went to politics in 63? Was it 63 you went to politics?
Well, I got involved in politics on the Democrat side in 1961, primarily because that was the only game in town.
Right.
And I learned a lot, and I decided that wasn't the place for me.
Right.
And so in 1962, I made the move over to the Republican side.
But what was it that caused that? What was it not for you?
Well, I just felt like their beliefs and their policies weren't in sync with what I believed.
Mm-hmm. You think a lot of people that, and like my parents, staunch Democrats, until my mom started really finding out what they were for and things that they had gone over and blessed and said, these are fine, you can do this and that, and especially like social issues. She didn't know. She just always thought the Democrats were for the poor people and the underdogs, and that's what they were there to help and all. And so a lot was, she missed in the translation and also in the transformation that happened to the Democrats. But you then helped turn that all around, and people see you as a hero because you brought so much awareness and the facts and things like that to this county, for sure, from Montgomery County, and then all around Texas. And even Karl Rove, sings your praises, right?
Well, you're very kind. Mr. Rove is a friend of mine, and he said some nice things about me, and I appreciate that. But through the years, I've had a lot of help. I hadn't accomplished all that by myself.
No, but you were the spearhead. You drove all that, and we just appreciate so much, and your history and all the stuff that you know. That I ask you now, you've been through how many elections do you think, have you ever counted up, like this is how many elections I've been involved in?
Well, the first time I voted was 1952 in the presidential election, but I wasn't involved. At that time, I was still in medical school, but the first time I was involved in any kind of election process was 1962.
In 1962. And so that's a ways back for a lot of people. It seems like yesterday for me. But
for me, it does too.
Because, we've seen and we've struggled and we've just been, ad nauseum about a lot of elections and things that have gone on. But this one has got to take the cake for you.
Well, the only one that even resembles what we have today is the 1964 election with Barry Goldwater as the Republican candidate. Mr. Goldwater was a sitting U.S. Senator from Arizona, but he was a very conservative person. He wrote a book called The Conscience of a Conservative. And when he decided to run for presidency, he made a lot of off-the-cuff statements and things that we've heard from our present candidate, Donald Trump, in a similar manner, and just kind of shocked a lot of people. And as the campaign unfolded, it was pretty apparent that people weren't responding much to what Barry Goldwater had to say. So the campaign came up with a slogan, and it said, "In your heart, you know he's right." And that sounded real good. And so we used that. But the Democrats didn't wait too long before they countered it. And they came up with an answer, and it was, "In your gut, you know he's nuts."
There you go.
And and the compliant media picked that up, and they loved it.
You know, do you feel like the media has always been skewed toward the Democrats?
Well, I think it's the liberal progressive movement. They identify with that to a great extent.
And now they've been kind of called out. The rock has been lifted, and with these emails that have been, as they say, stolen and then revealed to our media, it's been amazing. And they keep sending emails. It's just so funny, is it, that people get caught saying things and all that. But if you just tell the story, it's not as great as having an email of it or a video or a tape. And so I think that it's very interesting to me that we've had all this happen, and that these people still are so, I don't know what it is. Is it that they really don't think it's going to happen again to them or whatever, or them? And they do these emails that tell us what the media is doing, how the media is acting, how it is skewed, and it does look rigged. I don't think that that's a bad word for Donald Trump to use. And in fact, Bernie Sanders picked up the word as well in his campaign and started using it too. But you do feel that. And then these tapes that have come out, that undercover guy videotapes someone explaining how the DNC pays them to go around and help disrupt, the voting process. And so for them to come out and be so upset, last night, Donald Trump said one line. And what was that one line, Dr. Wilkerson?
Well, the moderator asked if the two candidates would accept the results of the election. And Mr. Trump said, well, I can't answer that now.
Right.
It's kind of interesting that with the people talking after the debate, they completely ignored, in my opinion, the great job that Donald Trump did during the debate.
Yes.
And that's all they want to talk about. They tend to either forget or avoid telling the public about the two instances where it actually did happen. And the first was in 1960 when Richard Nixon ran against John F. Kennedy. And there was a great deal of evidence to suggest that there was overwhelming voter fraud in Chicago, and Nixon on election night looked like he was going to carry Illinois, but suddenly a day or two later, the votes weren't there. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, in the state of Texas, the election was very close. I don't recall the exact numbers, but the difference between Kennedy and Nixon in Texas was in the thousands.
Oh.
And back then, the voters weren't aware to any great extent that they could vote what we now call a split ticket, where they could vote for a Republican and then switch over and vote for a Democrat in a different race. So a lot of people voted for Nixon, and they voted for all the other Democrats on the ballot. Well, the Democrat Party controlled the election process in the state, and many of those split-ticket votes for Nixon were not counted. And there were enough, most likely, to have turned the election in Nixon's favor in Texas as well as in Illinois. So it was several weeks after the conclusion of the election before Nixon finally decided that he wasn't going to take legal action to have the election contested, and he conceded the election to Kennedy. So that is conveniently overlooked by all the commentators.
Right, and it also happened with
in 2000, our election wasn't official until December, and the Supreme Court was involved in that ruling. And so I don't think that there was anything astounding for Trump to make that statement, especially since he believes that the election in some instances is rigged.
Well, I think, because Al Gore first conceded, and then he came back and took that back, and then that's when it went to court and all. So they had plenty of the contradictions that happen and controversy that happens. So and they felt like George Bush had stolen that for a long time.
Well, for months after the election, the Democrats called him an illegitimate president.
Right. So they have no room to get upset.
I understand. I've lost a lot more elections than I won in my career.
Right.
And I understand it isn't any fun to lose. But having said that, the Democrats think it's their inborn something in their blood that they can't lose.
Is that true? And we're going to talk about the debate and get inside of that and the analysis that Dr. Wally has. So don't go away. You're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show, Real Reality Radio. We'll be right back.
The Cindy Cochran Show, the first daily talk show serving Montgomery County.
Want to check out what it's like to be on the radio? Need credit for school? For an internship? Then contact Dick online at dick@irlonestar.com. Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's community radio station, and we are here to be part of the community.
The Cindy Cochran Show. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Oh, that is so true. You haven't heard anything yet. You're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show. I'm Cindy Cochran, and with me is so honored to have him as a guest, Dr. Wallace, and we like to call him Dr. Wally Wilkerson, and he is chairman of the Montgomery County Republican Party, and they're just a block away. It's so exciting, and I need to have more of those guys on here so we can have a panel like they have on CNN and all that, and have a real live panel and real, they're not getting paid panel, that will speak their mind. That's what I like about Dr. Wilkerson, because of all the years involved in this, all his history, everything that he has at his mind's touch, is that can bring us a lot of clarity and say, this is, there's nothing new under the sun in politics or sin. And so a lot of this stuff has happened before. Now, we did get a question from one of our listeners, and this listener said this: how would a large vote for Johnson, he's speaking about Gary Johnson, affect or not affect the Electoral College? Would that help Trump? And go ahead. You tell me.
I think it probably would not help Trump. I think it would be better for the people that are voting for Johnson to vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. I think that would have a bigger effect on the outcome of the election.
Right.
And but I understand there are a number of people that have difficulty thinking that they can vote for Trump. But what we try to do is to tell them, you're not necessarily voting for the president. You're voting to preserve the values of the Republican Party and for most of the state of Texas. and those values are not going to be preserved if Hillary Clinton is elected. And I thought last night it couldn't have been clearer when, thank goodness, the moderator asked a question about the Supreme Court. And you could tell from the way Hillary Clinton talked, she's not going to appoint people to sit on the Supreme Court who are going to interpret laws according to what the Constitution allows.
Right.
What they're going to do is sort of touchy-feely decide, well, should we do this because it would be nice? No matter what the Constitution says, that's the way it'll go.
Right. That's
so right. I think that it will be a disaster for our nation, in my opinion, because with the Supreme Court stacked with people like that, we're going to lose a lot of our religious liberties, a lot of other liberties, and it will never be a nation like we all, like our founders thought it should be.
Well, now, if Gary Johnson were able to pull off a large amount of votes, and it took away enough of either Hillary's or Trump's, and it caused the election to become tied, then that definitely would help Trump, because then it goes to the Congress, right? And they
Goes to the House of Representatives.
That's right.
Yes. Well, I think in that case there would be Trump would be favored, because right now the Congress is controlled by Republicans. We don't know what's going to happen in this election, and we certainly hope that we retain control of the House, and we'd love to be able to maintain control of the Senate as well. But whoever is elected president is going to have a difficult time.
Oh, my word.
This country is split almost down the middle, and I just think it's going to be very, very difficult for any president to be much of a factor in the next 4 years.
But
if the Republicans maintain control of the House and Senate, obviously much of what Ms. Clinton talked about last night are not going to happen.
That's right. It's not going to happen, too. And so we hope that it will be a strong Senate, a strong House of Representatives, and it not go to a tie vote. But if it went to a tie vote, that would help Trump for sure.
Even in the Electoral College, it would have to be
right.
in the Electoral College, right?
Exactly.
And that's happened a couple of times in our history before. But I don't think that's very likely. He's polling, I think, 6 or 7%.
Yeah.
That's probably going to go down over the next couple of weeks as we get closer to the election. It usually does. That's usually what happens.
And people feel
finally
like
decide that they've got to make their vote count.
A lot of people are writing in other people and all that, and that just dilutes the power and the push to be able to, maintain a Republican president, Senate, and also the Congress. But I think that just like a girl was on here yesterday, day before, Brianna Donahoe was on, and she said, you know who I'm voting for? I'm voting for the vice presidents. I'm looking at the vice presidents, and that's who I'm going to decide who I want to vote for. And, of course, Mike Pence was the strongest of the two vice presidents. And she said, and the reason is because I think Hillary and Donald are probably the two most likely people to be assassinated in the first 3 months of their reign. So I want to make sure who's ever going to take their place. And so that's why she's going to vote for Trump because of that. But for whatever. But
that's
Pence,
a pretty twisted reason. But,
yeah, it may work for us.
This election is like that.
But Pence did such a great job on his one
he
did.
did.
That he did with Kane.
He's a very, very qualified person.
Wow, he's so presidential. Yeah. He's, he fits the bill.
He's like what we're used to having.
Yes.
And, I tell people all the time, Mr. Trump is not your classic politician. He's just not. He's a businessman.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
So if you're expecting the latitudes and somebody that talks and talks and talks like Hillary and is scripted on everything they say, you're not going to get somebody like that.
No, Donald Trump is much sexier than she is as a choice because he's an entertainer. He knows how to draw people in, and he knows how to draw the crowds because they're coming for something. They're coming to that to listen to him for some reason. And when we look at the long lines and the hours that people stand in line to try and get in, and those that can't just stand outside and try and listen, and then you look at
the only thing I wish that Mr. Trump had said in his closing statement last night is that this is a change election.
Yes.
And I represent change.
Right.
My opponent represents the status quo. And if you like how things are going now, she's probably your candidate. But if you want change, she's not the candidate.
No. And he could rhyme that with she's status quo and quid pro quo.
Right.
So I think that he did bring out a lot of the things that I was just like, yes, finally you said this. And, all of us sit on our couches and they're just like, why don't you say that? Why don't you say that? And my daughter came in and said, he had the perfect opportunity to just, bury her. And he didn't take it. I don't understand. I said, I think it's difficult. But believe me, he has brought up more subject matters than we've had before that we've all wanted. And for them to come up even with abortion, that was amazing because, they've stayed away from that. Everybody stayed away from that for good. And that sold my daughter because she loved how he talked about the late term abortions and that she had voted for that. She was for that. And so, but her comments on, I'm not for open borders. I'm not for open borders. You didn't understand what I was saying. I was talking about electricity being a grid of being able to that spin was so hysterical. I was surprised he didn't make all kind of faces that he does, when they do the split screen. Wow.
Mr. Trump has not been a debater in the past. And it's easy to think, well, why didn't he say that or why didn't he do this and all that. But if you've ever been on a stage like that and done that, you just have a lot of things in your mind you want to say, and sometimes you just forget some of those things. So it's I don't blame him.
I know. I think that's something you have to forgive.
Right.
But she kept looking down like she was reading.
I agree.
Do you? That just
I told my wife,
really bothered me.
I said, look, every time she says something, she's looking down at the podium.
Right.
As if there's something there she's reading
script,
from.
Yeah.
I know there wasn't, but, golly.
But I don't like those guys that come up immediately after they walk up from around the podium. These guys come up and they take everything, the papers that they've been writing on and all that, they take it away.
Yeah.
And I want to see those.
Yeah.
That would be so funny. But I think that she does, and she'd close her eyes a lot. And it was annoying because she'd look down or she'd close her eyes and she would not look directly at the camera a lot of times. And you know what they were talking about? People that lie can't look you straight in the eye. She had a hard time with that. So if you guys DVR'd it, I DVR the thing. Maybe that's not what you do, but whenever you watch the clips that they have on the different news channels, watch her expression, watch her eyes as she goes through her reply and all.
I agree.
And it was that was very interesting. Yeah. Plus,
Mr. Trump has a tendency to fool with that microphone.
And drink his water. He made fun of Marco Rubio for drinking his water.
He was drinking out of a glass. So
it was very classy looking. Yeah. But I'm glad I didn't have a T on it. But and I can understand that because if you're not polished about standing up and speaking for long periods of time, you do get dry mouth because it's you're nervous or you're anxious about whatever you want to say. But it was the most calm, and he didn't take the bait. That was what was very exciting, is because everybody is all clenched, your fists clenched and all that, and then he was very calm, and so he calmed us down. Now, on the other hand, though, Wally, her voice, I don't want to make fun of, or it's not say I don't like your hair, I don't like your nose, or something like that. But if we're going to have to listen to somebody for the next 4 years.
She's got an unusual cadence, I think,
Yes.
and it's kind of
Annoying.
After a while, it kind of is boring. I agree with you.
And
but
so,
she, bless her heart, you can't do much about that.
well, I mean, but you can take, some elocution lessons or just
Yeah.
how to speak and how to use your voice and bring your voice down to a lower cadence. One time, somebody must have said that to her because she had come off of some rally or something, and they really played on the fact that she would go, I don't like him coming over to me. I don't like that, and da-da-da-da. And I said, yikes. But then the next time she came out, she goes, I think what we ought to do is go to a break now because Cindy has ranted enough about me. So that was about her, the way she talked. We do have to go to a break, and you're listening to the Cindy Cochran Show. We'll be right back with Dr. Wally Wilkerson, Real Reality Radio.
The Cindy Cochran Show, Real Reality Radio.
Lone Star Community Radio is on FM. That's right. Set your radio dials and your button presets to Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1 coming in June 2016. To celebrate this edition and the addition of video versions of our talk show and music shows on YouTube and cable TV, we are offering special sponsorship rates, which include free audio spots that are played throughout our broadcasts. Interested? Check out our sponsor rates for shows just like this one you're listening to right now online at irlonestar.com/sponsor. Or call the station at 936-647-5747. Reaching the people of Montgomery County with Montgomery County's community radio station with Lone Star Community Radio.
The Cindy Cochran Show, the first daily talk show serving Montgomery County.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show. Thank you so much for listening. This is our last half hour, and we wanted to get into, as Dr. Wilkerson was telling me during the break, that we do have a divided country right now. And I don't think it's all the presidential election, as we started with the police, and the riots, and we've had a lot of riots, and a lot of things have divided us. But when you have, just like you said, diametrically opposed views about something, and you listen to the commentators and go like, what debate did you just listen to? That's not the same one I heard. And so the filters on my ears and the filters on their ears are certainly different. But something that usually brings us together is some foreign country trying to hurt our country. And this morning it's reported that Russia is taunting us. And they have just sent their biggest military offensive. They've put 10 warships that have descended on the English Channel. And so now, what are you going to do about that? And don't you know that Obama's saying, can't y'all hold off till I'm out of here? I only have a couple of months. Don't do this kind of stuff now. Because I want my legacy there. But anyway, it does say Russia taunts USA with biggest military offensive since Cold War. 10 warships descending on the English Channel. But nothing will bring us closer together, I think, is when somebody like that starts attacking, or like they're saying, taunting, and like these boats that have come up on our ships that are taunting our ships, and nothing is done. We're holding back. We're not going to, get ourselves in a war. What do you think about that? What kind of precedent? Which one would you like to have, making the call for those kind of things?
Well, I don't believe what Hillary Clinton is saying about Trump is accurate. He's not going to hit the nuclear button unless we're attacked. And that in that case, both of them would hit the nuclear button. But I do think history has shown over and over again that when you show weakness and appeasement, your enemies are going to take advantage of that. We
That's
knew
right.
that in the case of what started World War II. And I think President Reagan showed and proved that when you stand up and be strong and have a strong military, you're in much better condition to be able to prevent any kind of serious provocation and any kind of war.
Let me ask you this. She said last night that it only takes 4 minutes. Once you push that button to send that nuclear head somewhere, it only takes 4 minutes. It takes 4 minutes to make that happen, to launch that. Why would you be telling the enemy you got 4 minutes? You got 4 minutes. I don't think she meant to reveal that. Do you? I mean, do you think she's going to get some pushback by revealing something like that?
Probably not. But
Right.
no, I think Mr. Trump brought up a good point in what we were talking about
Right.
previously, and that is broadcasting that we're going to take Mosul. And
Exactly.
Exactly. You wonder why in the world anybody would say to the enemy what we're going to do.
Right. Oh, that's so
And,
true.
So, like he said, I thought he made a great point.
Mm-hmm.
If we were going after the leaders of ISIS, they're gone.
And
they're
already
not in Mosul. They're somewhere else.
They already found out that some of those people had dressed as women to to get out of there because they knew that they were going to be sought after.
Right.
And so I
It's mind-boggling
agree.
to think that that was smart.
I asked my 10-year-old, a 10-year-old grandson, okay, here's the deal. Remember when you're kids and you played fort and that the enemy would come to you and you'd shoot them and all that. If you were playing a game and your enemy was sitting over there and somebody in your camp stood up and said, okay, in about 30 minutes we're going to come attack you. Get ready. Would that happen? Of course not. He said, "Oh, stupid. No. You sneak out around and try and get behind him and that kind of thing." 10 years old knew that was a stupid thing to do. So
well, they're
don't
obsessed
understand.
with this idea that the nicer they are to our enemies, the nicer they'll treat us, and it's just the opposite.
That's right.
And its history has shown
That's right.
over and over again that kind of thinking is a disaster.
Right. So Trump did seem like he had done more studying and
Yeah.
was up on some things.
I thought so too.
Yeah, that he was really excited to be able to talk about, because I know this part. But I think that she was caught by surprise, and he got under her skin at one
thought so,
point.
too.
And her eyes, you can tell her eyes open up, and we can see the whites of her eyes kind of thing. And she did get upset about that. So temperament is an interesting thing that she'd bring up. Like, does he have the temperament to be the president? When her Secret Service people are saying they would try to avoid having to cover her because of how mean and cruel and unreasonable she was, that they did not like covering her. And when she fell and broke their arm, it was reported that they started laughing. Now that's how she affected them. And this is Secret Service and her bodyguards and all that were to keep her safe.
Yeah.
But the way she treats underlings, that's what she, when he says she has a lot of hate in her heart but I think it's a despise of a class system that she has in her head. And she wants to talk about, oh, my daddy worked in this and we lived over this, and we had nothing and all. And then she really does, she said, I'm kind of out of touch with the middle class now because of all the money we've made. She said that. So we get to hear behind the scenes, and it kind of confirms a lot of times what your impression is of these people. But I was just going to ask you what the most exciting thing was that you saw last night in issues that got across, you felt like, from Donald Trump.
Oh, I think there were any number of them. I haven't watched TV enough to know whether the media will talk about it or not. I suspect not. Mm-hmm. They don't want to put any bright light on anything that Trump has to say, it looks like. And, you wonder if that's intentional or that's just the way it's reported these days. But it sure looks like it's intentional to me, because every day it's the same over and over again.
Right.
I thought he made some great points in that regard into national security and that sort of thing. And I hope that the listeners picked up on that.
Right.
Because I think it's important that if you like what has been going on with Obama in the way of foreign policy and ISIS and all that, then Hillary's your person. But if you want change, there's no question about it, Trump is the answer.
Boy, is that the truth. Amen. I wish you could have done his final speech for him.
Yeah.
He said, step aside, let me do this for you. But I think that when she started in on her final speech and talking about what she's going to do for everybody and all that, and what's ringing in your ears as she says that is, what about the last 3 decades? Yeah, what about that? If you haven't done anything so far, and that people can't point to this and say, here's where you made a difference. And when she says, I was sitting in the room when bin Laden, so what? I mean, sitting in that room was not, capturing him. You got to be on the team and in the administration that captured him. Yes, that's great.
Well, I think Trump has done a good job with talking about, you talk about all the things you're going to do and want to do. You've been talking about those same things for 25 or 30 years, and you hadn't done them. So
right.
What makes the voters think that you're going to suddenly be able to do that?
Right. That's exactly right. And that's what we kept trying to. And when she says, that people say, well, all the things that Bill Clinton has done in his past and all, and everybody says, well, we're not voting for Bill Clinton. We're voting for Hillary Clinton. It doesn't matter what he's done. And when she has come out and said, I'm going to have Bill, who, nobody's going to argue we had a great time with the economics during that time, and bring him in to help me with that, I think everybody would be happy with that. Well, there you go. You've brought him in. And so he's going to be first gentleman or whatever they're going to call him. And so here he comes, his past following him right along up to today, and you're going to put him in charge of all these women's group that he has to go talk to and be a part of. And here we have a known, close to being convicted sexual predator, bringing him back into the presidency's.
He'll probably have his own bedroom in the White House.
I bet he does, way down the hall. And that you're going to bring that sexual predator in, and we know the things he has done. He has had to confess it. He had to go before, the court and confess that kind of thing, even though he sat there and lied while he shook his finger at us, just like you have done to us as well. He may have learned this from you, how to do it. And I think one of her mentors, what this mentor taught her was that when you're doing service in the government and all that, and you're a community activist, anything happens, just deny. And that was his philosophy, and he taught her. So it doesn't surprise you that that's what they do, is they just deny. And so we're going to have 4 more years of Obama. The Obamacare that's killing us seems to be, she says, we're going to fix what needs to be fixed about that. Doesn't mean it's going to change. Doesn't mean that your premiums are going to go down or anything like that. So there's just like so many reasons and to go like, why would you do this? I know she's a woman, but this may not be the right woman. A woman would be a great president, but not this one because of the baggage.
I think it's time for to have a woman president. I have no problem with that.
Carly Fiorina was the closest that I thought I could see sparks of Margaret Thatcher in her. And I would have, yes, but no. So not this woman. And I think any woman out there that's going to vote for her, just because she's a woman, think about it.
I'm sure there are those that will do that, but I doubt if there's going to be an overwhelming number that will do that.
Well, everybody's talking about the security and protection. Please protect us and all. And this woman who is going to bring in 550,000 refugees that can't be vetted. We're going to vet them. How can you vet them? They have no papers. They walk in there, they have nothing. But they do carry one thing with them. Diseases that we have conquered here, and now they're going to bring back, and we're already seeing measles rise and all that. So if you want to protect your children as well, think about that, and think about that being a part of, who's going to be bringing in disease and stuff, and who is going to be vetting them to where if you're not here to help our country, and and we can't count on that. And everybody needs to get their shots before they come in. That's what she should have said. Everybody's going to get their shots before they come in, and that's not going to happen. So anyway, I just think there's a plethora of reasons that we try and keep Donald Trump on the top ticket. I think that
I don't think the American people have a problem with strict vetting, as Trump has put it. Certainly, we can only do so much, and as you say, these people don't have any kind of history. And if we're going to ask them, "Are you a member of ISIS?" What do you think they're going to say? They're going to say no.
Of course.
So it's kind of.
Are you coming
ridiculous.
in to do harm to our country?
Right.
No. So I think somebody's going to have to come up with a better way. And we've watched what the government tries to take control of and run and manage, and a lot of times they can't do it. And so we've had to go to private sector to have them run it, because there's some competitiveness, some competition, and we may get a better job from them. So it does make me angry when the government says we'll take care of this. And just imagine how the rollout was of Obamacare. They couldn't even handle that, and then the lies we got from them. So there's a lot that you have to think about as your finger goes down to push that button on who it is that you're going to bring to the top of of our leadership and what they're going to do. I think Donald Trump has the smarts to surround himself with the right people that will instruct. And that's what I believe in. Yeah. So people say, "You want that guy? He's so crazy." No. Look who he going to bring with him and surround himself with. I wish he'd go ahead and just tell us who his cabinet is, everybody in the cabinet. Why don't you do that, Donald?
Some people have said that would be a good idea. I don't know. They may talk about that before the election time rolls around, but you can't wait until the last few days to do that.
No, that's not the Hail Mary pass. Yeah.
You got to have an impact. You got to do it pretty soon.
What if November 7th?
Early voting starts on Monday.
Right.
I wanted to mention, and you mentioned it earlier, about the division in our country. And one thing that's been disturbing to me is the number of people that have come in our headquarters and purchase yard signs, and a week later they come back and complain that they were stolen. Mm-hmm. And it's been lots and lots of people like that. And a number of these people have the surveillance cameras on the front of their house that have been there for years. And one lady came in and showed us a camera, a film, and this was a grown man. Turned out to be one of her neighbors.
Oops.
He was 51 years old, and when she said, "I just want you to quit stealing my signs," and he said, "Well," I paraphrase what he said, "I just got tired of seeing that sign every morning when I drove to go to work." Well, and then there was one of a young high school student. He had his band instrument in a case, and he walked by the house and he stopped, put down his instrument, went and pulled up the two signs that she had in the yard and put them in the dumpster. And then picked up his instrument and walked on off. And it's just amazing to me that we have that kind of mindset. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say it's just terrific divisions in our country. It's really, really sad.
You're so right. But I think we'll be brought back together. We always have been. We come back together and we do unite on things that we feel like are someone is attacking our family, the country, that we will fight that, and we will come together for that. So I have faith in that. The main thing is that, which, I can't get too much. Sometimes I'll get too worked up on it, and I have to keep reminding myself, wait a minute, God's in charge, and everything's going to be okay. Don't get so excited. This doesn't have anything to do with your salvation of your soul, and that we're in an election, and we try and do this. But God says in the Bible, pray for your leaders. Pray for the leaders. And if two potential leaders need more prayer, it would be Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So I think he was smart. He's not interjecting himself into this. He's just saying, pray for them. Pray for
some people have come in office and talked about that, and a lot of people, as a matter of fact, and one of the common threads is that God's plan is not for some Casper Milquetoast guy to come in and try to change what the direction of our country.
Right.
That it has to be somebody that's outspoken, strong, and so forth.
Right.
So, you know.
That's a good point. His attributes have been used for different people, characters in the Bible even. So I think it's just
I wanted to mention one thing quickly.
Sure.
When we talk about the Supreme Court and the loss of religious liberties, I happened to be at the prayer breakfast last week and heard Kelly Shackelford speak, and they represent people and organizations that have had their religious liberties questioned. And he told a story about a fifth grade teacher, I'm not sure what state it was, but it wasn't Texas, that she told the students that they could bring their favorite book to class and read 2 pages out of the book. And so every child brought their favorite book, and one little boy brought the Bible. And the school said that's a no-no.
Oh, my
You cannot bring the Bible to school. And so Kelly Shackelford and his group are suing them to allow this child that's his favorite book, and he wanted to bring it to school. And the question a lot of people had was, well, would they allow the Koran to be brought? You know. That would be this. Well, you have a Supreme Court like Hillary Clinton's talking about. Not only that, but you think of the hundreds of federal district judges that she'll be appointing.
Right.
And if they all have the same mentality that she talked about for Supreme Court justices, we're in big trouble.
That's it. That's what my husband says. There's 2 words why I'm voting: Supreme Court. And that's why I'm voting for Trump.
It's a real good reason.
You know, I've got just a couple of minutes, I think,
Yeah.
and I want to ask you, we had another question. How, if any, does the popular vote affect the Electoral College? Ergo, the election. Does our vote matter?
Of course it matters, and whoever carries the state of Texas, they also will get the electoral votes from Texas, 36. And so, yes, it's important.
But now those electoral votes, though, could change, right? They have the option to change.
Well,
Is that right?
At the senatorial district conventions of both parties, they choose electors to go to Austin in December after the election, and they actually cast the electoral votes. And there's always some question about certain ones of them that might, change their vote and not vote for who the state voted for. Mm-hmm. It's not happened in Texas. But Maine only has 2 electoral votes, but they have 2 congressional districts, and so whoever wins the congressional district, whichever presidential candidate does, will get that electoral vote. I think there's one other state that has something similar to that, but otherwise, whoever carries the state gets all the electoral votes.
Yeah, because we heard that Al Gore won the popular vote.
Yes.
George Bush won electoral votes, and so you go wait a minute, what does that mean to me? And what I hate more than anything is when people are standing in line, and in a lot of places it's very cold or maybe snowing or whatever, and they're standing in line, and the TV calls it. Now, they're not supposed to do that. They have said there's a rule. They're not supposed to do that this year. While the polls are still open, they cannot call it. But you keep seeing them projecting the winner of this while these people are standing in line and going is it going to matter that I'm here? So suppressing the vote has been also a difficult thing to listen to a lot of the Democrats or Republicans, but to say, I'm not going to even bother to vote. But if I don't have a dog in the race, if I don't have a vote in this, I am not, I can't say anything. I can't argue about it. I can't sit here and behind this mic and say, yada, 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 if I didn't go vote, if I didn't take the time to go vote.
Well, in 2012 in Montgomery County, almost 80,000 registered voters failed to cast a ballot.
80,000?
80,000.
That is.
And we have over 300,000 registered voters now. And in 2012, we voted just a little under 200,000 people. But 80,000 did not vote at all.
That is the saddest thing I've ever heard. So we need to end this interview because we're out of time now. Mm-hmm. And I just thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate your invitation.
I love it. Okay. And that you go vote. Go
yes,
vote, go
Please.
vote, go vote. I don't care who you're for. Just get out there and exercise that privilege. Okay, so we're here at the end of the day. Tomorrow's Friday, and we're going to have Connor Halstead come in, and we're going to talk about movies and entertainment and lighten it up a little bit, okay? Okay, that's what we're going to do. Thank you, listeners. We love you, and we want to tell you that this is the Cindy Cochran Show, and it's Real Reality Radio, and we'll be back tomorrow. Do something nice.
Thanks for checking out this production on Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, and TV media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production, produced by the show host and Dick Schissler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schissler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.